Okay. Hey Nathan, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for saying hi. Like it's a lot easier when people are talking to me. I'm not used to webinars
Yeah,
it's like this.
I also actually I don't join webinars usually, but I'm very like interested to join with you. Hope so we'll learn lots of things.
Awesome. I appreciate you guys joining. I appreciate you joining. It means a lot to me. And like I said, I kind of am going to be focused a little bit on powering things up or turning trash to treasure backlinks, but I am going to touch some base on some local SEO as well and kind of discuss heat maps. And I'm going to go a little bit over SEO Neo just because there's been a lot of hype around SEO Neo and I get a lot of questions about it. And there's one thing that most people I've talked to have made some mistakes on, or not necessarily mistakes, but it's costing a lot more credits. I don't know how well other people, people who own it will like me saying these things, but it'll save you credits, and it's so I'm going to go over that, and then basically we're going to begin. It looks like there's enough people here for me to start showing and going over these things real quick.
Yeah, it's great. I'd like to add a request. It's like if you share something like something related to food traffic businesses, this will be very good because sometimes it's very like I'm more interested learning like more things about food traffic businesses.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. We'll get started, and then if anybody has questions, we can go answer those as they come in. Let's see here. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen here, just so that I'm kind of on point and we can kind of discuss what I'm going to be going over here. So finding opportunities for the trash to treasure, that's the very first step. You can use whatever tool you use, SEMrush, you can even use Google Search Console, and go through, and then you find these backlinks that it's showing that you have them, but they're not really performing well. And indexing them. Some people are like, oh, they just need index, so they run an indexer to them. Personally, I like to run backlinks to them and power them up. So basically, if this article isn't my main keyword, even if it is my main keyword, I will power that article up so that it ranks for whatever the article is about. Therefore, I'm getting more traffic from each of these things that you find in your dashboard. And so that's basically what's transforming the trash into treasure. I create a sheet for the local end, gathering up all of the things that has to do with the business. And I'll show you an example of that too. I kind of created this more of so that I can stay on focus because I'm not used to being on a webinar and talking to people and teaching as to where I am doing the work. Um, so you create your sheet and you capture all the videos and the images. And I take these videos from YouTube, I take the images straight from the dashboard. And we can probably go over that too if people have questions on how to do that. And then we'll build those backlinks, build cloud stacks and different things to these sources that you find to make them more powerful. Basically, everything that's pointing to you, the more powerful it is, the more powerful your rankings and your authority and your website and your local map is going to rank better. Because basically, you're telling Google, look at all these places linking to me and doing these things, and they are killing it. They're doing so well, and they're doing so well because of you, because you're powering those up. And this is just kind of a breakdown of powering them up. Your Google listing. These are some of the things that I use to power these things up. I use PDFs and then I build backlinks to the PDF. I build links to my Google Sheets, Google Docs, Facebook, Yelp, all of these different things, and then even iframes and embeds. And then I build those to my business, Google business profile. I call it Google Maps, and that's what I'm going to call it from here on out. So I build that to my Google Maps. And some people have asked in the past, well, do you use the CID number? Do you use the share URL? All of it. I alternate a little bit here and there, and I just kind of send it to different places, including my products, my services, my Q&As, my whatever it may be. I'll send links to there, and I build these out that are specific to going to there. Obviously, I can't control Facebook or Yelp, but these other things I can control what they're talking about and where I send that. Then you do the same thing to your landing page. Your landing page is the page that's attached to your Google Maps. So if that goes to backslash the city or if that's the home page, That's what this page would be. And then you do the same thing again to here using the Facebook. You build the backlinks, the Google Docs, Google Sheets, the PDFs, the iframes, all of those things I build links to and push them over. A lot of the times these things will actually get indexed, and sometimes they'll even end up ranking for certain terms. And that's once again you're funneling all of that over to boost the landing page and your maps. So that's kind of what I had for that. Now we're going to kind of go into the beginning processes, and I'm going to actually kind of show you kind of a walkthrough. So let me stop sharing the screen for a minute. Let me get that prepared. Let me close this out. Let's see here. Okay. Okay, can everybody see my screen? If you just drop in the chat, whatever, so that I know that you can see my
Yeah,
screen.
it's very clear.
Okay, awesome. Appreciate it. So then here, before I begin any project, especially when I'm doing local, when I'm doing maps, I always Google the city name. In this scenario, it's Charlotte, North Carolina. You see this little outline that goes around the whole of the city? You want to make sure your business is within that, because if it's not, it's going to be extremely difficult and it may not even be possible to rank them if they are not. So I always Google that, find what Google considers as the city Charlotte. And here we are. And this client example that I'm giving you was somebody that volunteered that I could share and go through and kind of walk you through this. It's not an actual client of mine, but so it's Impex Auto Glass, and you can see he's right on the edge. So that means he's definitely going to be harder to rank than if he was over here or closer to this city center. Sometimes the city center can shift. And what I mean by that is there's certain places, like in New York, you have the Diamond District. So if you were doing a jewelry store or something like that, the city center no longer applies. It would be you need to be in what they call the Diamond District. Um, so coming through, he's in there, so he's good. Then I come through, you open up you can usually verify if you can't find him. I know he's right here, but if you can't find him, I also Google in maps on here and I check to see, and then you can compare back and forth to make sure that they are within the city limits. If they care about those city keywords or showing up in that specific city. This is a mistake that I see a lot of people take, and I've turned a lot of business away just because they aren't in that actual city. And while it may be possible, and I have had even my own businesses that were just barely outside this city outline, like right in here before, my one business was like right outside it. I was able to get into the pack. It just took a lot more work, and generally I won't take on the business if they want to rank in a major city and they're not really within this outline here. So that's the first step always of going through the local, in my opinion, is making sure that if that's what they're worried about or that's what they want to rank for, I make sure that they rank basically it's possible. And then I'll open up and go through and you can find their backlinks, um, whatever you use, Href, SEM or SEMrush or whatever you use to find those what backlinks you have. You can come through and you can take these backlinks here, any of them. Obviously, some of these are spammy. Like I obviously wouldn't want to build backlinks to this or power this up because this isn't even in English, and that's probably not even a really good backlink. But if you could find ones that make sense, like let's just say this one as example, even though I'm pretty sure that's not the address, this is probably for one of his other locations. Then you take this, you can convert that over to a sheet. You take all the ones you want to power up into a sheet, so that way you can easily get to them. I use different things to usually power them up. You can do manual outreach and then get a guest post and then just send all of your spammy links to that guest post, basically. Or you can send them directly to, if it's Foursquare or something, I'm not worried about spammy links when you're sending them to places like Google or Foursquare because it's not your actual website, it's not your actual property. And what is Google going to really do? Are they going to penalize Amazon? Are they going to penalize Foursquare? Are they penalize Yelp? I don't foresee them being able to do that, or the fact that they would do that. So I will send spammy links to any of those. I don't care. But your website, you definitely need that tier or that buffer. You need to put something in between you and them. So a guest post from another website, and then you can do the same thing and power up that guest post. So I'll take all these into here. And like I said, I'm kind of going over both. I'm going to go over local because that's what most people are interested in. And most people who follow me, that's where most of my tips are focused on is local. But you can power these things up. This works for organic and it works for local. So power those up. Then I go through and I get my sheet ready. And this is what my sheet kind of looks like. So I'll have my images here. These are images that I actually pulled off of his listing off of Google. So these are his Google. If we go to one of these, you'll see it opens up. This is his image on his Google from his dashboard, his maps. So basically, I have that sheet and I have all those ready. These are the images I wanted to use. These videos were pulled from YouTube. I put those in here. These are his social medias. One of his social medias that was listed was this Instagram, but when I tried to open it, it was broken. That's why I put the strike through it because it said it was there. So that's something I don't know what was going on. It could have been my computer because it looks like it's kind of giving me a little thing. So it may be working now. Yep. Over here's the post URL, the question the Q&A, the CID, the place ID, the reviews, links. Now I got all of these by using uh, GMB Everywhere. I don't know if you've ever used it, but basically if you open up GMB Everywhere here, it opens up its own little window here. I can, and we'll open it up just so you guys can see where I got a lot of these links. So basically with GMB Everywhere, I can click Basic Audit. It'll open up. I'm not logged in. Anyway, and that'll open up and it'll give you all of when that opens, it'll show you all of those links. And I might stop sharing and log in a minute if anybody needs to see what those look like. But I just took those links from there, put them into my sheet. Now, all these things, I also created my embeds. So this is the iframe, which is from the map share here. Going into the share, embed a map, copied that, boom, there's your iframe for the map. And then I put that into the sheet here. TikTok and some of these others, they allow like X will have its own where you can just copy it just like I just did. Some of these others I've had to create my own. Basically, you can go into ChatGPT if you don't know how to do it. You can say, "Hey, I'm trying to create an iframe of this post or this or that," and you can create those iframes. And generally, I have a lot more of stuff than what I'm showing you. Generally, I have a lot more photos. Generally, I have a lot more videos. Generally, I have a lot more social media if it's available. And then on the posts, I'll even break it down to where I'll have the post URLs for each post, if that makes sense. And then the Q and A's, I just do the Q and A. I don't do like each Q and A. I don't even know if it's possible to do each Q and A. But if it is, you can try it. The reviews, you can actually go to each review. So usually I'll come through and I'll go, hey, these are my most popular reviews, or these reviews mention keywords that I want to rank for. So then I'll target those keywords with these links because I want them to be more authoritative or more prominent. So that way Google sees them better and users see them better. And it also powers it up because it has those keywords inside those reviews. Now, the reason you want all this list is if you're going to use anything like SEO Neo as an example, which a lot of people are talking about right now, you're going to want all this stuff so that you can just feed it right into that system. And if you're not using that, you're still going to want these to create whatever you're doing. If you're doing press releases, if you're doing guest posts or whatever you're doing, all this stuff can come is useful for you to create that guest post or create those that information on whatever platform you're using. Okay, so then we have all of that. So that's basically the process there. And then we'll go into, give me a minute. Let me stop this. Let me switch screens here.
Um, so now that I have a quick question, like, okay, can I ask the question?
Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead. I prefer people to just unmute and ask questions. I don't see the chat, just so everybody knows, because Yash is helping me and he's became host. And for whatever reason, I'm not great with everything. And Zoom is new to me.
You are doing great. You are doing
So
great. Right. So my question is like, so far we know that Google doesn't give value to like the backlinks. You can say the like spammy backlinks we will create. Maybe manually, maybe with some automation tools, but they're like not very helpful content, so they are not helpful in eyes of Google. So even if we use them as a tier 2, so in my opinion, they are not giving value to the tier 1 links according to Google, because they are not valuable to Google. So if they are not powering up, like, not, I'm not saying about authority, I am saying about value. So if they are not giving value to tier 1 links according to Google, so how I am going to get the value to my original sites or links? Maybe
So
they will increase the domain authority, yeah, agreed, but how, uh, like, they are being helpful?
So, in my opinion, Google doesn't really know what helpful is. Google doesn't really know what people like. So it's not really based on Google itself. It's more of the user. So as we're powering these up, as an example, there's lots of articles out there and lots of guest posts and things that don't get the shine they really should. They're actually really good. Just they didn't acquire backlinks. They didn't know what they were doing in terms of SEO. They didn't run any ads. They didn't do anything. So nobody saw those articles. Now, some of these are garbage, hands down. Most of these are, but Google doesn't know that. And when they see all these links going to it and all these people, they're going, wow, people like this. And all of a sudden now it's not garbage to Google anymore. This is valuable. And next thing you know, this article is ranking for something off the top. Let's say that you were in this scenario that we're talking about, it's an auto glass repair place. Let's say that they're talking about auto maintenance and they have an article about restoring your headlights, and then somewhere in that article starts ranking for restoring headlights, but in the article it mentions also about glass repair, and then it links to you. That's going to pass that link juice and that authority over to you, because now it ranks prior to you powering it up or building those backlinks. It was nowhere to be found. Not even Google saw it, so Google wasn't counting it. And if they were counting it very low because they were like, hey, there's nothing happening on that site. Basically, it's just stale. Obviously, it's not important because it's not, it's having a hard time even indexing. So that's what the way I view it is, you're actually getting it to where Google sees it. And that's why I was saying when I was kind of walking through it before, I was saying some of these you're not going to want to build backlinks to, like some of them that were in different countries, in different languages than what you're trying to rank for, stuff like that. You're not going to want to power those up because that'll actually have the opposite effect. That'll actually hurt you. And that's actually where some of these tactics of people are using negative attacks or negative SEO on your business, because they'll do stuff like that. Like there was a while where my Facebook showed up in Chinese or another language because people were building backlinks to my Facebook profile, then adding the language tag behind it. And I don't know why they were doing it, whether it was being vindictive or just maybe they were testing. I don't know, but somebody did it. I don't care. I don't get anything from my Facebook or from being, online in that aspect, so I don't really care. Um, so that's kind of my process. So if it makes sense, you're going through your backlinks that already exist in your Search Console or your Hrefs or any of those tools, and you see these backlinks and they make sense. It's on topic. It's talking about something that would link to you, and that's the common sense test. Does it make sense? Yes. I should be building backlinks to it. I should get that indexed. I should get that ranking better, because if it ranks better, I'm going to rank better. And so that's the answer to
Well,
that.
yeah, this was good. I have another question. Like, do you use any indexing method to keep the tier 2 backlinks indexed?
So
Because
on me,
there are going to be lots of backlinks if you do use automation. So how do you keep them in indexing?
so I do use some automation. I just don't do automation to my client's direct site, and I don't do automation to anything that is owned by the client. I always have a buffer. So that tier is what most people are calling them. So the reason I have that tier is because let's say that tomorrow Google updates and goes, "Hey, we're going beyond that. Now we're going to start tracking what's going beyond that." If that comes to a play, if that ever came about, I can turn off my buffer. I can basically say remove. I can remove that link, and when that link's gone, boom, goodbye to all that spam that now they can see. But I've been doing this for like at least 10 years that I can recall, and I have never had an issue because I'm not building it to my website. I'm not building it to my actual properties, and so. That's how I would approach that. That's why you got to have that buffer. So I'm not saying automation's bad, just never automate direct to your site. Some people will tell you that's okay, and it might be for a little while.
No,
We know that spam works. We know that it ranks you, but it's going to tank you someday, and it probably will be pretty soon with how quick the algorithms are getting nowadays. You're probably going to see this huge spike, and then it's going to be like a now you're gone.
yeah, it's clear. I was just asking that how you like keep the tier 2 backlinks indexed, because so far they are not indexed, they are not being very helpful,
Right,
because
agreed.
there are lots of backlinks. Suppose you can create like 100,000 backlinks with automation for tier 2. So if you want to use any indexing tool, this is going to be cost too much for you for submitting lots of backlinks for indexing. So how do you use any indexing method, or just leave it as it is?
So I've done both. I've done it without an indexer. Basically, depending on how good the article is going to depend on if you're going to need an indexer or not. In my opinion, when you need to use an indexer, it's because it's complete garbage. It's something that Google's basically saying, I don't want this on the SERPs. This has no value. Absolutely is just repetitive stuff. Um, but I have used an indexer, and I actually do it the opposite of what most people would do, which is funny because most people are going to tell you you should do an indexer to your tier one links, and then that way it'll boost up. I actually do it on the farthest end of the chain. So my tier three links or my tier four, that's where I'll use my indexer because those are usually the most garbage links anyway. And when those index, that means the next tier is probably going to index, and the next tier is going to index. And then I'm going to accomplish that without having to spend this huge budget on indexing everything. Now, if you want to index everything, that's up to you. But like you said, it does add up. It's pretty cheap, but when you're talking 10,000s of links, even a couple cents adds up really quick. So that's why I generally go to the end of my chain. My end of my chain usually is like a tier three, tier four. I'll index those ones, and what I've seen is then my tier threes index, and then my tier twos, my tier one, and then obviously my website's already indexed, but that's how I generally approach that. Omega's one that I've used. I think Speedy's the other one. Those are the twos that I had the most. I tried Index Injector or something like that. I didn't have a whole lot of success there. And there was another one that I tried. Kalinkri is a little bit different. Kalinkri is more of a there's indexers and then there's like a crawlers and it's hard because they all are kind of called indexers. Like Omega does beyond just requesting a crawl. Kalinkri basically just requests a crawl for you. So Google's going to crawl it, but it doesn't mean it's going to index. Omega does more than just ask for a crawl. For those who aren't familiar with that. But yeah, you could definitely do it. I've done it. I've had plenty of campaigns that I don't use an indexer at all. And what I find is all it takes, a lot of it has to do depend even if you're using automation like SEO Neo, it comes down to how good you're thinking some of this stuff out and what that those articles and things that you're building with SEO Neo look like. Because if a lot of them are good, those are going to get indexed. If those are indexed and they're linking to something else, well, guess what? That something else is going to index. And therefore, you don't need the indexer. But I have had success with indexers too, but I don't use them all the time. Yay. So this is for those, this is SEO Neo, and this is kind of just, I wanted to show you kind of a basic rundown of their new map stuff. And I'm guessing everybody can see my screen, I'm hoping. If not, let me know. Good. All right. So
Yeah,
this
we can
is
see.
Okay, so this is basically the client or the person who's allowing me to share these things, and I put this information in here. I've already done some of the work because obviously I don't want to share like all my projects, even though most of them probably wouldn't make any sense to people because I don't usually use real names. I usually use abbreviations just to keep things simple. Um, so the first thing you do is you create a project or you go into the GMB and then or GBP, and then you click projects, you create your project. Now, this is where a lot of people are wasting credits because you come in to create your project. I don't need I don't need SEO Neo to track my heat maps, okay? You can, and it has a cool feature to where you can compare them and it gives you metrics, gives you all these cool graphs and stuff, and clients probably like that, but I don't really use this. I use Local Dominator and I use a couple other tools that I actually track my progress. So when I create a heat map, when I come in here, it says keywords in that, some people are coming in here and they're adding all of their keywords. They're all their primary keywords, whatever that may be. Auto glass repair, auto glass replacement. They're using the city, Charlotte auto glass. Well, each one of these is costing you credits. And you don't need to if you don't care about the tracking. If you don't care about the tracking through SEO Neo, which I don't, SEO Neo is just a tool to help you rank. I don't care about it tracking my rankings. So I'll just come in and I'll do one keyword. So we'll say Charlotte auto glass replacement. And then you come through, you could do your grid size. Usually I do about 1111, but this all depends. This is all going to change depending on what my heat map looked like prior. So if your heat map, you're doing really well up on this end of the town or this end of the city, then you probably want to focus down on a different end of the city. And you're going to probably on the other screen prior to this, you're probably going to want to change your GPS coordinates so it moves your map marker to wherever you're not ranking as well, if that makes sense. Um, but so when you do this, what happens, what a lot of people don't understand, because they make it kind of vague here. Let's go here, and then we got everything, and then I usually put this on auto just because it's easy. And then we'll run our heat map. Um, yeah. So once this is running, what's happening right now is it's checking every one of those pegs and is pulling the GPS coordinates for each one of those. That's what's happening. And the reason why I told you that you don't need to put multiple keywords in is because we just needed the template. We didn't need 5 or 6 templates. We only need one. We just need the GPS coordinates for each one of these. And so now that I have this, I can reuse this same thing over and over and over again, or however many times you want to run campaigns. But when you're going to want to create a new one is when you start to notice, let's say that you're dominating this end of town and down here you're not doing as well. That's when you'd want to create that new heat map because you're going to want to just target down here. You're not going to want to keep, if all these were ones, I'm not going to want to keep sending, signals to my ones. They're already doing really well. I want to start sending signals to these areas that aren't doing as well. Um, so that's how you'd create this. I have this template. I don't need to do 5, 10 of them and eat all my credits up. Even though the credits are pretty inexpensive, just being honest. But there's no reason for me to double those up. I don't care about all those keywords. I don't care about ranking them. So then coming through here, generally what I do is I run the GBP sniper first. Now, just like Elias and Merlino and everybody's talking about, you should be doing 50% brand, 50% keywords. So one run should be branded, or for every run, let's say you run 4 runs, 2 of them should be branded, 2 of them should be your keywords. So you're keeping that balance. You're not going to want to overdo it. And you shouldn't run, at least from my experience, I only run one of these maybe a month, sometimes not even that. This is just something to give it that little extra boost, in my opinion. And I was doing this all in a different method before SEO Neo was around. When SEO Neo wasn't around, I was using Ranker X, I was using GSA, I was using, I used Money Robot, then I stopped using it because I had problems. I recently some people have said it's really good, and then they got a cloud base now, so you may want to check that out if you're interested in it. They do a lot of different things. Obviously, once again, I want to make it perfectly clear to anybody who may have joined late, don't ever build that to your main money site or your website or your specific properties. um, I'm telling you, there was an era to where almost everybody got hit with penalties, and literally for about 4 or 5 months of my life, people were just hiring me to remove penalties. Like that's basically what I did for about 4 or 5 months. People would just pay me. I'd go in, and all I was really doing was working with Google and saying, "Hey," I was just admitting to them, "Hey, we messed up. We were dumb. We got these bad links. We're sorry. Can you help us?" And they'd be like, "Yes." Long, basically they'd help us, and they'd make it clear if you do it again, it's going to be a lot bigger punishment, and you're going to be in timeout a lot longer. Just like a parent, you did it again. Now you got to sit in the corner for longer. Like, and that's kind of how Google was handling that. So you don't want to do it straight to your properties. So if anybody hasn't ever seen the GBP sniper, um, This is kind of what it looks like. This is what you'd go through. The wizard really walks you through it. Some of this stuff I already have set up. Let's see, what did I have here? And maybe I didn't. I'll just auto generate for this one because I don't think I set one up. Uh, my account templates, default, auto generate. Let's see, I do have an account bucket, I believe. Maybe not. I'll auto generate that too. My content, got auto glass. Okay. So then you just add all that in. Your rich content, I usually do random. Number of videos, random, random. I like everything to just basically be random most of the time. You can specify it, and sometimes I do mix it up just because, but 90% of the time I'm just randoming it. I do use a two capture service for my captures. A lot of people do use Xevil. I haven't personally used it, but I've heard good things. With all my proxies and everything that I run, I don't see it's necessary. I think I only spend like, I don't know, I put about $50 on my two capture and it lasts me for probably 3, 4 months, sometimes longer. It only, like each campaign, I think I spend a couple pennies because I have enough proxies that it's not triggering the captchas. And all of this is on speed. Usually I have this all running on one of my machines I don't use very often. I also have a VPS, but generally I just have my laptop is what I usually mainly work on, and then I have my desktop PC that's like a gaming PC in one of my offices that I have it remote hosted to Google or whatever the remote desktop. Then I can connect to it and I can run these. So I'll ramp this up to like usually in like the 20 range, and I can usually do about 10 browsers at a time. Um,
What is this
Nathan,
actually
I have
doing?
another quick question.
okay, hang on one second.
Yeah,
One question at a time. Who was first? Go ahead. Who was first?
yeah, and Andrew is first.
Okay,
What
go.
is this? What is this actually doing?
So this here is setting up your campaign with SEO Neo. So now you've put in when I chose my bucket here, I've already created a content bucket. And basically, if you've never used SEO Neo in content bucket, I have it attached to my OpenAI. So you can generate articles 100 at a time is what it's maxed out at. And then you put your specs in there. One of the tips I'll give you on when you're doing your content buckets is it'll say topic. When you're doing a local campaign or whatever, I like to put the city in that as the topic because I'm trying to push local content. A lot of people try to stay on topic. As an example, in the auto glass, they might be like auto glass shop, or they might do like auto maintenance or auto repair. I like to throw in there the city. So when you put that city in here, and then we come back into here, and you generated all those articles with OpenAI, you don't have to use it. They also have Article Forge, which I can't believe anybody's still using that. But if you are, more power to you. Um, but all your content, you generate it. It'll go walk you through it. It'll say articles. I generate 100, I generate 200. It even has a built-in spinner. I don't use the spinning. Some people do. I figure with AI, why would I be using a spinner nowadays when I can just generate it all? I generate that, I generate the comments, generate all those things under my content bucket. I've already fed all of that information in from my sheet that I showed you earlier. That's where these images are from. That's the 4 images I showed you earlier on the sheet. This is
Yeah.
the 4 videos. This is the 4 embed codes. Um, Now this is telling it when it's going to start posting these. It's going to start posting these on Web 2.0s, and based on the diagrams or what you're doing on these GBP posts, it's going to be generated at where you specify here on the next step, which is going to be like your CID number or your place ID, or even this is okay to run to your home page or your landing page and your about us and contact us, because in these wizards you're not using anchor text. You're using, what this is going to do is it's going to create basically a bunch of naked URLs or just URLs to your site, and it's basically going to help boost the authority and things on the sniper. On the blast, that's different. um, but this right here, you're determining how many connections you want. As an example, if this was all the way down here and this was down all the way down here, this is going to take forever to run. This is how many times it's going to connect. So if this is like 20 connections, 22 connections at once, and this is like 8 browsers. So you got you got 8 browsers and 22 connections. This is going to run a lot quicker. And then if you're going to use an indexer, it's as easy as I would just select Omega or whatever I'm using. These are the ones that it works. I tried index inject. It didn't do anything for me. I think I spent like, I don't remember, $50 or something, and I ran it and ran it and ran it. I saw no difference between using it and not using it. Kalinkri, it works a little bit. It's not great. I've had the most success with Omega and Speed if you're going to use it. Usually I don't use any, at least not on most of my campaigns, especially ones that aren't my real clients. And then you're going to come through to next. This is where all that data from that sheet is going to come in. Give me just 1 second to hang on 1 minute. I got to get to my other screen here or switch things around.
So you're automating posts to a PBN. Is that correct?
Yes and no. So SEO Neo has its own platform, and in its platforms, it has Web 2.0s and it has a bunch of different links. If you went into the diagram editor here, you would see, and you could actually make your own diagram and choose where things are going to be posted, whether that's Web 2.0s, whether it's this or that. You could get as specific as you wanted. You could go through and say, I only want it listed on these 5 Web 2.0s out of the 100 you have to choose from. And you can get super specific on that. As well as in your own diagram, you could actually incorporate your own PBNs if you have them. So you can link and chain link your own website properties into the chain as well. In these maps or local settings, most of these, I believe, are like comments and authority links is what they use. On the blast, I believe it's all comments. And so it's just basically going through and comments, and then you're going to get traffic to your maps, and that behavior improves your rankings. Now, the other things that's happening, I'm not sure, other than the behavior, if it's actually doing anything or increasing rankings. I suppose it is, because when I've done my testing, after a few days, I check and my rankings have gone up, and I can't imagine that much behavior took place, especially when I'm not using an indexer. So then we would go through and we would choose your project. This is going to pull in a lot of the data for you, because when you did that heat map, when I told you it was pulling that GPS information, it also pulls some of the data for you, which is the place ID and the review URL. This stuff you would have to pull.
Nathan, are you sharing your screen?
Oh, hang on. That's yeah, I was, but apparently I'm not. Hang on. All right.
I had a question about proxies. Like, do you use national level proxies or like local? Because it's hard to find local proxies for each city.
I'm using the dedicated ISP proxies. And so basically, if you're using Rayobyte, I believe it's called, that's what I've been using, because I've been an SEO Neo subscriber for a long time, and that's what they used to recommend. I think he's recommending Oxy Labs or Oxy something now. I can't remember exactly what that was, or if that was the proxies he's suggesting. But the dedicated proxies, I think they're real cheap. I think I get 10 of them for like $22 a month. If one goes down, I just email them or whatever, and they give me a replacement. It's I've only had to get like a few replacements, probably like 5 in the last, I don't know, 3 years, something like that. They don't really go down very often, and they work fine. I haven't had any issues with it. Don't do rotating. Don't try to do like, if you go into the mobile proxies, those are going to add up really quick. Those are expensive. It's going to cost you a lot of money. But the dedicated ISP, and I can drop links or whatever if anybody, you can even message me on Facebook. I'll send you the links to what I use and where you buy it. But it's like $22 a month, I want to say.
Okay. So you don't recommend rotating proxies, static only?
Not with the SEO Neo, no, because they're going to be, when it's rotating, it causes issues or something. I don't know the exact answer to that, but I've spoken with Elias and he was telling me don't use rotating, use dedicated. And then at that time they were recommending, I can't remember what Rayo Byte used to be called, but it was called something else. And then it became Rayo Byte. Now he's recommending Oxy or something like that. Regardless, as long as they're dedicated, they work fine. and you got to obviously they got to be USA or wherever you're doing your work. Obviously, you want to be in that area. With Rayobyte, I got to choose my states and my cities, if that makes sense, of what was available. And so then I chose those ones that were where my clientele is. And so I have proxies for certain areas. Whether that matters or not, I don't know, but it mattered to me, so that's what I did.
Okay, suppose you have likely 10 projects in one city. So can you use the same proxies for all the projects or different proxies for different projects?
Yeah, you can use the same proxies. You don't need to change them out. At least I don't think so. I haven't had any issues, and I reuse a lot of them, and that's why I'm saying I have some that are dedicated to certain cities and states, and I was testing that out to see if that mattered, and I'm not sure it does. I didn't see any difference. I usually do kind of diversify my proxies, so it's like all over the United States, so that way it just kind of makes it look more popular. But whether that even matters or not, I don't know. Okay, so in here, anything is that it? We good? Okay. So then in here, you basically you select that project. That's where we set up earlier when we ran that heat map and everything that we were talking about. When I was telling you only need to run one, you don't need to eat up all these credits here, running all your keywords unless you're using it to track. And then obviously go ahead. But like me, if you're like me and you have a different program you track your heat maps with, just run the one. Um, and then coming through here, the GBP about us, you would take that over here from whatever you had. Let me see if I put that one on here. I don't know if I did, and I didn't. So we'll do this other one. I do have that. And then the about us, usually I'll do like the knowledge graph. You can actually put what other ones in here. It doesn't have to be exactly what it asks for, as long as it makes sense. And then you'll put your social medias here. This is why that sheet is important. You can't see my other screen, but I'm pulling this information from that sheet. Now, this is where you'll put your keywords in. See, this is where SEO Neo is kind of confusing because at the heat map section, it's asking what your keywords were, or what you're doing, because that's just talking about the tracking and getting those GPS pins. Now we're going to actually specify the keywords. So, Charlotte, auto glass repair, auto glass replacement, auto glass replacement in Charlotte. Let's just say. We'll say that's my keywords for now. And then once that's done, then you would just click generate. And then here it is. That's all ready to roll. Now you can run your campaign. There's lots of different things. Usually I'll hit start and then I like to open it up. And this will show you kind of like when people were asking about, well, where's this posting? What is happening? This is the Web 2.0s. It's showing your tier levels. It breaks it all down for you. And then the blog comments, like I said, a lot of these ones that are going to the Google Business Profile of the maps is blog comments. I'm guessing that's because these are probably posting in places that people see it and then they're clicking it. I'm pretty sure a lot of your rankings is behavior driven, but there is something beyond just the behavior, like I said, because even before it's indexed, I see improvement in the rankings. Um, and then you would just start your campaign. It's pretty easy as that. Right now it's on idle. I could hit start, but since I'm not on my machine, I usually run on. Um, and a lot of things on here, I don't want to start this, especially while I'm on a webinar. I don't know if this PC could handle or how much it could handle with this campaign running and the other things I'm already running on it. So I'm not going to even start it. But usually you would start this, then you'll see it going and it'll start showing you your progress. You can even break it down into further. This is showing you where the Web 2.0s, what Web 2.0s it's posting to, and creating those contents. It also will end up giving you the username and password. So if you wanted to go completely white hat, you could technically just run a campaign, log into everyone you posted, and then go put your original content or beef them all up and make them good or better, I should say, because they still come out pretty fairly well with OpenAI. Um, but you could technically go through and make these all your original content. In your content bucket, when you're generating the content, you don't have to use OpenAI. You don't have to use Article Forge. You don't have to use any tool. You could create your own folder and you can write all of your articles by yourself. You get on a Google Doc and you have a million hours or whatever it takes you. You could write every one of your articles. You could write every one of those things, put it in that folder. And then when you select your content bucket, it's going to use your original content to publish and post these, just as if you were going to do it manually. So if you wanted to go completely, in my opinion, white hat, and have your own stuff without using ChatGPT or OpenAI or generated content, you can do that. When it comes to linking to a map listing, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. If you're going to your website or you were to build these Web 2.0s directly to your website, then yeah, absolutely. I would definitely recommend that you're using original content. You went in, you made sure it made sense. You made sure it provided value. You made sure it answered whatever query or questions or whatever the purpose of that article on this Web 2.0 was. A lot of the map stuff is just getting it out there, embedding that map on there, getting those iframes popular, getting all the things that you built. Let's say that you're doing PDFs here. So these PDFs that are going to be published on these places, if those PDFs were valuable and they go onto each one of these, and then after I'm done running a campaign, I will go through and I actually will build backlinks to these as well. Once I have that URL, I'll build them to this. I'll build tiers upon tiers upon tiers. One time I went way. I mean, I want to say I went about 10 runs deep, and it really improved rankings, especially in organic. Organic went through the roof when I did that. Um, Maps, I think you could only get so much behavior from it until, from my experience, if you get too much behavior, it looks too unnatural. And I'm pretty sure that's why Elias recommends is not running so many campaigns a month, because when you run too many and you get too much traffic or too much things, it's too unnatural and you'll actually end up with the opposite effect. Um, so that's kind of just going briefly over these things, showing you the authority links. It's just places with, these are, you can go through and see them all. Same thing with your wiki links. And like I said, and before you run your campaign, you can choose these as well. The wizard, which is really cool because before the wizard existed, we had to do all this stuff manually. We had to go through and it was like, create that account, create this, create that. And then we had to go through, instead of the wizard, we had to basically manually put all this information in. And then we had to determine where we wanted to link to, the CID and this and that. And in the end, it took a long time. It took us several hours to set a campaign up. Now with the wizards, it takes, I mean, we just basically set one up. We're done. Other than I didn't show you the content creation because I didn't want to make you guys wait, for me to generate 100 articles using OpenAI. That takes several minutes. And then I do that multiple times because I need more than 100. And then I go on to the next section, do that again and again. We'd probably be about 40 minutes on the content bucket, just to give you an idea. You don't have to sit there and watch it. You can go work and then come back to it, work, come back to it. And then basically this will run and create all these things here. I don't just use SEO Neo. Being transparent, I use GSA. My GSA I use to power up other things like YouTube videos. I'll use it to all sorts of stuff like that. Sometimes I'll even use GSA to power up a campaign I run with SEO Neo. And I think that's why the indexing doesn't matter as much to me, because I'm using several platforms that get that ball rolling. So one of them is going to index, and that means the next ones are going to index, and the next ones, and the next ones, and the next ones, like a snowball effect. And so I'll use different ones. You don't have to just use SEO Neo. You don't even have to use SEO Neo. I used Ranker X a few years ago and had decent results using it. You just have to be a little bit more, you have to understand how all of this is working and why it's working. Because once you understand that, then you know where you're going to be putting your links or what you're going to build to. So as an example, if I wanted to perform what they're doing here on another platform, let's say I was using Money Robot, I would have to go on Money Robot and I'd have to go, okay, I'm running a campaign to the CID number link. I'm running a campaign to the post URL link, and then I'm running a campaign to this, and then I need to run a campaign to, and even after you do all that, and if they have Web 2.0s, and I haven't used Money Robot, but if they have a place to embed the map, now you've covered that. So technically on another platform, you might have to run like 8 campaigns as to where SEO Neo, it's all kind of wrapped in for you, making it very easy. But once you understand it, then it opens up your mind and the possibilities of going, because I don't want to do everything everybody else is doing. I don't want to just create something and go, hey, this is same layout, the same diagram everyone's using and this and that. And that's why we can create our own diagrams. And then you can also power these up. And you're also creating your topics. Like I said, one thing I don't think a lot of people is doing, and I could be wrong, is under the topic, I use the city or neighboring cities and stuff like that, because that's going to probably show up in the search, because now I'm hitting a city as to where otherwise you're hitting nationwide. The odds of it getting indexed and ranking for anything nationwide is pretty low. But showing up in a small city or neighboring city, that's high. So I'll use that as my topic, because then boom, it's gonna rank, it's gonna show up, it's gonna get traffic, it's gonna do what I'm trying to accomplish. If that all makes sense. But let me see. Let's do some Q&As, and if anybody has any questions, because that's about what I have, and I hope everything makes sense about powering things up and why I do what I do.
Okay, well, I want to know something like, so far I know about GSA. There are like some list of websites you can buy on GSA. So is that the same for SEO Neo? Like you have to buy for good backlinks, like you have to buy list of websites, or like the defaults are fine?
So on SEO Neo, this is kind of the diagrams going over those different profiles that you can go into. And obviously, you could do your self-hosted WordPress here. Here's the blog comments that we were talking about. The only ones that I know of that cost additional money, and it's not really through SEO Neo, that's the cloud blogs. And so if you want to do your cloud links, then you are going to have to pay for the usage through Azuri or whoever you're using or however you pronounce them. You would have to pay for those. When I first did it, I signed up for every single one. And I was just running these massive campaigns over and over and over again. And in the end, what happened is I got a pretty big bill. I maybe I set some of them up wrong. I'm not exactly sure what happened, but I got about a $1,500 bill. And to me, that was a little unexpected, because I'm going, wow, like, of course I paid it and I didn't have a problem paying it, but I didn't expect it to cost that much. And that's why I suspect maybe I set one of them up wrong, or because it only happened on a couple of them. So I disabled those and I only use the cloud blogs on a few things. But in terms of what it's including, it includes all these things. The cloud links do cost, like I said, because you have to obviously have them. The self-hosted, you're going to have your own if you're going to do those. But other than that, no, it doesn't cost anything more. You can run all of these. It has different diagrams that you can choose from. One of the more popular ones is the RD100. This is one that Elias talks about a lot, because this boosts the authority of the website. So basically, you're boosting up. Not I don't like to say DR and all that, because that's obviously a made up metric. It's not important to Google. That's to those platforms. But this improves basically the authority or how Google views your site or whatever you're building this to, because you're going to choose your money site. This doesn't have to be the money site. So prior to the wizards and what Elias has done for everyone, we were using these and building our own diagrams. And then here we just replace this with the CID number, or I'd replace that with a photo, or I'd replace that with a video, or I'd replace that with whatever I wanted to rank. And so you could replace this because you're choosing this. And then the same thing with anything else. So you could choose whatever um, diagram you want, or you can create your own. Like I said, you can uh, if you go up to the top here to create, you could name your diagram whatever you wanted. And then this is your site here. And then you just say, hey, I want some authority links here, some Web 2.0s, some cloud blogs. And then you would just choose how these basically link to how you wanted them to stack. And then you can keep stacking. I mean, you can come through and you can stack to just showing you how easy it is to create your own diagram. But you can go as deep as you wanted, and continue to do that over and over. And then if you had your own self-hosted, obviously if that was the case, I wouldn't be going here. I'd be going to my self-hosted, and then I'd be going to here, like so, if that makes sense. And so yeah, the automation is good for your properties that aren't directly tied, aren't your direct property, and then you can automate all those up. When it comes to outreach and everything else like that, I use a lot of different tools. Um, I actually have been using Search Atlas and trying it out and doing different things because it has an outreach built into it. And he's going to be releasing a bunch of cool things. Let's see, starting today, I think, because he's doing 12 days of Christmas. And some of those things sounded pretty exciting. He's doing some kind of backlink, kind of like exchange system to where there's like I think he said like I want to say 60 or 40,000 websites already are there, and basically you can approve and you can choose who you want to exchange backlinks with, and it's all automated to where you're approving it. You don't even have to talk to them, and you just go, hey, I want this backlink, and then you approve their backlink, and you're going back and forth on different pages or posts. I thought that sounded pretty awesome. And then he was releasing some other cool stuff. So that I use Search Atlas for some of that as well, and I've had some good success with what they currently have, which is it shows you a bunch of news reporters, and then you have like these templates to where you can email people. And so I'm just finding the websites through there, and then I'm just sending this button, and boom, it's emailing these people and saying, hey, I see this or this. I do a lot of stuff to acquire my backlinks because I believe the harder they are to get, the better they perform. So some of them I'm like, hey, like I found this problem on your website. I'll go ahead and fix it with you. You want to jump on a Zoom? Just share your screen. I'll walk you through it, or I'll fix it for you. It doesn't matter. And then they jump on there, and I do that. And then we get talking, and before you're done, I'm like, hey man, like, would you be interested in maybe doing a link exchange or something I can do to get a backlink from you if I write the article, or do you have something you wouldn't mind? And then 9 times out of 10, they're like, oh, absolutely. I'll just go ahead and link to you, and then boom, you got that link, and then now you put that in a sheet because now you have a contact, and you may not want to overuse it and use it all the time, but once your sheet fills up with thousands of those people, and when you take on a new client, it's so much easier to just go, hey, how's it going, man? Like, things are going great. I know you helped me in the past, and I want to help you again if you're willing to help me. And then boom, you got a network, and then you don't have to worry about paying hundreds of dollars for backlinks or wasting money on backlinks, because that happens so frequently. Over the years, I've spent so much money on backlinks that were just garbage. Nothing came from them. They looked like great backlinks. They had traffic. I got them in there, and I didn't see any improvement in rankings. Absolutely nothing. And I'm like, and then other ones, like I've had people who were like, hey man, this backlink works. I promise. If you'll buy it from me, I'll prove my worth. And I'm like, it looks like garbage. That's the spammiest looking backlink I've ever seen in my life. And he's like, dude, just try it. And I paid him, and boom, sure enough, my rankings jumped like 3 pages. And I'm like, why? How? But it doesn't matter. He goes on the list, and he went pretty high up on the list. So so that's kind of, it's hard to really evaluate on metrics on what is a good backlink, in my opinion, at least when it comes to improving on rankings. You can say that will help my authority. That's going to help me get exposure. Obviously, nobody is going to be like, hey, we're going to turn down a backlink from some big network or some big website. Like Forbes might be great, but I wouldn't say, no, I don't want a backlink from you. It probably isn't going to increase my rankings, but it's Forbes. So I think that's kind of my opinion, and that's why these power ups, in my opinion, is the game changer, or what's important, because a lot of these backlinks, it's not because they're bad, it's just they didn't get the exposure. They didn't. So when you're powering them up, it doesn't just index 9 times out of it doesn't just index most of the time. It also actually can rank, especially if you're going after small cities or towns as your articles or whatever you're posting. And then that ranks, and when those rank, then it ranks that main site, and then that's going to in return send those ranking signals to your website or your map listing or whatever you're doing. We have any other questions?
Someone have a question on chat. Rafael, he's saying, for a beginner, how do I get quality links without like costing too much?
So quality links, that kind of goes back to the same thing about what is considered a quality link. because I've spent lots of money testing things out. I've spent on one campaign, I think I spent about $3,000 buying links that were costing me on average over $200 a piece. And in the end, I didn't see any return on my rankings at all. I didn't see it move up one spot. In fact, it may have hurt me a little bit. And I was checking the traffic. I was checking that it was on topic. I checked their anchor text profiles. I checked for spam. So the best way is just to test. Some of my best connections or some of the best sites I've found on my own were just basically telling people, hey, posting and saying, hey, I'm looking for a backlink provider. Here's the rules. I want to see some improvement on my rankings, and I'm going to post and tell people about if it works or doesn't. And I'm going to be doing it on a fair basis. In 30 days, I'm going to say where I'm at. In 60 days, I'm going to say where I'm at. And in 90 days, I'm going to say where I'm at. And if it increases my rankings, I'm going to continue to use you. If it doesn't increase my rankings, then it may have been, maybe it was the website, maybe it was something else, but generally I'll know, because when it didn't work, then I'll use somebody I do use and then test it. And when I see the rankings increase, I go, okay, the backlinks weren't what I thought they were. So it's not really, it is hard to find ones that are affordable or within reach. Generally, it's through guest posts or somebody who offers them for a fairly low rate, because it's like, hey, I know this backlink probably isn't going to be great, but I know that I can power it up and make it great. So if it's only costing me $10, $20, it's worth a shot. And if it works, then we can keep working together in the future. One thing you do got to keep in mind is some people, if it is a really good backlink and it produces results, some of them aren't going to want you power them up because you're sending spam there. And when they see that spam start showing up on their tools, they're probably going to remove your guest post and it's just something you got to kind of monitor and watch and see if that happens. Because if it does, you're not going to want to keep doing it, because you may burn that bridge, for one. For two, you're wasting your time, because they're going to eventually remove that guest post. So you just kind of keep an eye on that. I did use a real garbage site, iCopify, for some of them in the past. Don't judge it by its price, because some of them on there, they want thousands and it's a garbage link. All the links on there are garbage. I just want to make that clear. They're all garbage. I haven't seen a single good one. I spent like 8 hours on there one day just sorting to see if I could find one good website, and I couldn't. None of them really were. Hardly any of them are indexed. But I did notice that I could leverage them for buffers and still send, like, I could send massive amounts of spam. I could run an SEO Neo. I could run Money Robot. I could run GSA and even a Scrapebox on it. Boom, sending all those comments and everything. And when that happened, I saw an increase in my rankings, because we know that those spam links work. Because if they didn't work, why did Google create penalties? Why did they create these penalty systems? Because they know they work. They know they increase ranking, and it's gaming the system, and they don't want you to do it. So how can you game the system still? Well, you do it to somebody else's page. It's not really going to hurt them, because you're not doing it to the homepage. You're not doing it across the whole site. You're doing it to one guest post. So if anything, it's actually helping them, because, like I said, then that guest post ranks.
Okay, it's like how do you find local websites for links? Is there any recommendation? Because for locality, if you can get links from local news sites or any local sites, this is better than any other links.
So a lot of my I use press releases. I use a lot of press releases, because press releases do break down to local. Um, and also the reason I use press releases is because I do know that I want to diversify my anchor text and my profile. And when they're seeing these news sites come in, it balances out some of these other things you may be doing. So, like I said, at one point I was testing iCopify and using these garbage links as a buffer. I don't want a bunch of those, because those are gonna, if I use too many of those, um, for whatever reason, what happens is all of a sudden your links don't count anymore. It's similar to like when you get too many reviews, or Google thinks you're faking reviews, all of a sudden your reviews just stop coming through. They've turned them off. They're not allowing you to get reviews anymore. And it seems like if you overdo it on backlinks, that same thing happens. You'll overdo it, you'll be doing great, and then all of a sudden you dropped a little bit. Now nothing's going to move it. None of your backlinks are going to count. They basically put you in timeout. Now, in about a month to 3 months, that's going to go away depending on how bad you overdid it. And then they're going to start counting them again. So with press releases, it helps that because it helps buffer that out because now there's not just seeing these crappy or these buffers coming into play. They're seeing these news networks linking to you and they're going, okay, this is why he's getting all these crappy or these buffers and these things are happening because he's getting all this exposure because he's all over the news. He's everywhere. And so then it justifies to Google some of the stuff that you may not want to necessarily be using or having, if that makes sense. Like a backlink that's from somewhere, it's not good, it's not spam, but it's not great. It's just basically a low level website. But it justifies that. He was seen in the news. So this low level website business owner linked to him. So that makes sense why he's getting hundreds of these or 10 or 20 of these or whatever your strategy is. So press releases are good, also reaching out to a lot of the organizations like your chamber of commerce. There's the business networks like the BNIs. If you're an actual local person and you're the actual business owner, the BNIs are a good one to get into because a lot of the times they'll have backlinks in. Make sure that your clients did their business license in the city if that's an option. Make sure they're getting that. The chamber of commerce, depending on the industry. Like as an example, I used to do plumbing. I used to get backlinks from a bunch of stuff. Like I'd go to all the water heater manufacturers' websites. Now there's only like 3 or 4 of them, and then they white label their water heaters to all these different companies and slap a different sticker on them. A lot of people don't know that, but it looks like there's like 50 different companies. No, there's only like 3. Um, so you go to those sites like Bradford White, some of them was like A.O. Smith, and there's a bunch. Anyway, you go there, and you find opportunities to where you could become an authorized, basically repair person or whatever the options they offer, and that's a great way to get backlinks that most SEO professionals don't know about because they weren't plumbers. We're not plumbers. We don't know that all these things. So doing your research on whatever industry you're working on, you can find a lot of local stuff that way as well. I am a big believer in outreach. You find something, and instead of focused on what's going to help you or your client, you focus on what's going to help the person you need help from. So, as an example, with personal injury, I team up a lot with chiropractors. So, my outreach to them is, hey, would you be opposed if some of my client so and so at law firm sent you some clients that have been in car accidents? Do you do any kind of car accident therapy? Now, see, I've already cleared this with my lawyer or the law firm that this is okay, and they will send them clients. I'm not making this stuff up. I want to make this clear. Don't lie to them because later on, that once again, that'll burn a bridge. You want to have something to offer them and help them. So I come in and I say, hey, I'll send you these, my client's willing to send you these jobs, basically these clients that have been injured in an accident. And they're like, oh yeah, that's awesome. Then that's it. I don't pitch them on the spot. That's it. End of conversation. We're done. And then it goes into my sheet. Later on, after I've built my sheet up doing that with lots of people, then you can start building the other relationship. Hey, I wrote this great article on my client's website, and we're going to link to you from it. I was wondering if I wrote an article on for your website, would you link to me? Absolutely. You've already sent me a job. They've already sent me a client that was injured. That's awesome. Like this stuff is great. I'm so glad you're helping me. And a lot of times they even offer you money and stuff. I'm telling you, they're like, wow, like you don't even know what you've done for my business. And it's like, look, I'm not in the business of trying to get chiropractors to clients. Like, a lot of times I even have to explain that. But at the end of the day, they're very happy and grateful. And then when people are happy and grateful, they're happy and grateful to help you. And so then you can get those local backlinks. That is pretty much my strategy right there. Um, I find opportunities that most people don't think to look for, and then I find and make connections.
Yeah, I think so. This must be a great way to get local links.
It works really well. The one thing I do like about it the most is that you can literally, you've created a sheet. So now let's say that for whatever reason, your client decides he doesn't want to go with you anymore, whether it's your fault or not. Let's say that he just decided he just wants to pay for ads. It could be something completely not to do with you. Well, he goes to ads. Well, now you have all the stuff to just, you go get another client. You replace him, and it's like boom, right out the door. You already have the connections. You already have the backlink opportunities. You already have it all. It's all mapped out. All your work is mapped out for you. You just got to get, I usually get a VA or one of my guys here to handle that aspect of it. And then they go through, put that data in. But before then, I was doing it all myself. I was just taking all that data, going in and being like, boom, 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 boom. I no longer have to go to research mode. I no longer have to make connections. I no longer have to do all that stuff because I already have that sheet. And that sheet gets bigger and bigger every year you're in business. And then you expand into more and more locations. And before you know it, you pretty much can handle any client you want with very little research. I still do tons of research because I like to add more and more and more, and I want to be ahead of the competition. I want to be able to come in and go, oh, this client signs, boom, in 90 days, they should be ranking fairly well because I can get all this done on day one. I don't have to spend 2 weeks to a month doing research, even though I'm still doing other stuff like, I doing citations and doing your foundation links and going through their content and all that. But at the same time, I'm able to, oh, this page is already optimized. I got a backlink to it same day and going on and on and on and on. So that's kind of my flow. That's what I do on the local. But I will say that I'm not convinced that necessarily local backlinks always perform better than national or perform better than any other. I've had backlinks from other states that boosted my local rankings more than a local one. It's hard to say what Google's using there, in my opinion, on what they're measuring, whether that's some kind of authority on the website, which we do know, PageRank exists. We know that, or at least I know that for a fact because I was around at one point where you could view it. You could go to Google and they would show you PageRank. That's how we found out that however many backlinks, that was literally our graph. Oh, we need 10,000 more backlinks. And you'd get those 10,000 more backlinks and boom, you'd go up on PageRank and your website would rank. There was no question. And then they hid that information from us. And then they started slapping us with penalties from Panda and Penguin and all these different systems because they were like, no, no, we don't want you banking on that. And that's when we started going, okay, we need to tier link this because we can't send that directly to us.
Sounds good.
Okay.